Well, I want to do a quick sound check. So, for the first person who joins us in our live feed, if you can hear me, please let us know that you can hear the sound okay. Tara, you might have to approve comments since we have all of the spamming going on. Well, for those of you who are joining us or joining me during this Imbolc Ritual, while we're waiting for some people to gather and to join us with the live feed, okay, just want to double check the sound. Can you hear me? And if you can, just please say it. Good. All right, awesome. So you may notice that we're in a slightly different setting than normally. This is clearly not the store. I want to welcome you to a little corner of my home. Last week I had a medical procedure that I'm in recovery right now, and it's part of my recovery is not spending a lot of time on my feet or standing up. And so in light of that, instead of canceling the ritual or modifying it or something like that, I decided that I was going to leverage and tap into something that I give advice to other people about when they're working in their spiritual practice, about doing what you can do to celebrate and to honor your spiritual path work in the best way that you can. And so this is going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. It's much more casual, a little bit more relaxed. If you've done ritual with me before, you know that traditionally, like either in the store or even virtually over the last year or half of a year or so, many of our rituals are done in a very traditional ceremonial type format. And that a lot of that comes because of my upcoming or upbringing in my spiritual path of ceremonial magic and ceremonial practices. So what we're going to be doing this evening, and I appreciate you joining us and sticking with us. If you're not able to stay with us, that's okay. We're going to replay this on YouTube and leave it on our Facebook page. But what we're going to be doing is a little bit more spell crafting and spell work, ritual work, to celebrate Imbolc and to tap into the energy that Imbolc brings. So I just wanted to kind of explain why we're in a different setting, and why there's a little bit of a different format this evening. This is also great advice to anybody who's been struggling over the last year. One of the common things that we've been hearing is not having enough time or energy or motivation to practice your spiritual craft. I know that last year, doing a lot of work to expand the store, I outside of doing rituals for the store and for the community, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do the things that I normally do privately or in my home or with my family, the way that I traditionally do, to celebrate the Sabbats and to celebrate my spiritual path and honor my deities and my ancestors. So there's no right or wrong way of executing your spiritual path and executing your spiritual journey. And it's okay to have modifications. It's okay to accommodate. What this really put in perspective for me is also the idea of spatial requirements and limitations of space and movement and mobility. And I wanted to make sure that we're representative and we're honoring those same situations or conditions that other people might be experiencing. So hopefully you will enjoy this and learn something new, maybe get some new perspective, maybe some ideas and inspiration for this week as we go into Imbolc and to celebrate and add something to your craft. So that explains this new setting. Let me introduce myself for those of you who are joining us for the first time, have never seen me, have never met me. My name is Myra. I'm the owner of Hearth Wisdom Store. I'm an eclectic gray witch. I've been practicing witchcraft for almost 20 years. I am an unaffiliated high priestess, which means that I don't associate or align with any particular coven or any particular tradition, and so I pull in a lot of different elements into my spiritual practice, and you're going to see some of that here today. And so I want to welcome you for joining us this evening as we celebrate and honor Imbolc. If you are new to your path or you don't know what Imbolc is, let's talk a little bit about what this celebration is, or what this time of the year means to individuals within pagan traditions or in Wicca traditions. Imbolc is a traditional pagan holiday or Sabbat, and it is traditionally observed between the 1st and the 2nd of February. It marks the time between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. And in traditional pagan folklore, the story that goes with Imbolc is that this is the time of the year that the sun god is in his adolescence. If you joined us for Yule, that was the rebirth of the sun god in the beginning of his journey, or his storyline or his arc line. And he is joining with the goddess in her earthly maiden form. It is a celebration to welcome back spring. It is the promise that the life is returning, that the darkness of winter is falling away, and that we're starting to see the initial beginnings of the new season and the sun coming back and warmth coming back. When I was growing up in the northern states, one of the signs, the early signs of spring, were these really delicate white or light blue flowers called crocuses that they would pop up through the winter or through the snow, and it was a reminder that the earth was warming up and that spring and summer were coming. So here in Texas, it was beautiful yesterday. It was 70 degrees. Today it's 40. So we're reminded about perhaps the unpredictableness of our Mother Earth, and the reminder that we are not always in control of our day-to-day situations or circumstances. And Imbolc has been widely celebrated in a couple of different traditions. It has different names. In the Catholic and Christian tradition, it's called Candlemas, and it is still celebrated today in different Christian traditions or churches. It is also called St. Bridget's Day in Ireland and Gaelic and Celtic cultures. And Brigid is the patron female entity, energy, deity, goddess of Imbolc, and we are going to be calling in and working with Brigid's energy. Now, Brigid is one of the most widely celebrated, recognized, acknowledged female deity, energy, goddesses in probably, other than, I guess she's so widely accepted across different pathworks. So in pagan tradition, she is the form of a triple goddess. She is one of many triple goddesses in the pagan tradition. Within Celtic or Irish folk Catholic tradition, she is Saint Brigid. She is also the only fair-skinned Lawa in the Haitian voodoo tradition. She is a death goddess who is celebrated with hot peppers and rum and a black turkey. Not turkey, rooster. Rooster. And so she is she crosses so many different pantheons that I think she's one of my favorite deities to work with, because she is also the goddess of the home and the hearth, fire. She's a fire goddess, and of marriage. And so we are going to be working with her energy and calling upon her as part of our ritual space here in the working that we're going to be doing today. And when I usually set up any of my space where I do spell work, there are some things I still keep consistent. I still keep in some of my elements of sacred space, and so I'm going to start calling in quarters in order to set my ritual space, and then I'm going to talk you through what I'm actually doing and crafting and working with Imbolc energy and Brigid energy. So let's go ahead and get started. I have set on my table here my elemental candles for my directions. They are in the nautical directions for the place where I live, and starting in the east, we will start calling in our quarters. Hail to the guardian of the east, and the elements of air that bring in wisdom, knowledge, and insight. I call to you to join me in this space to bring in your intuition and your insight and your wisdom and knowledge as I create and I craft and I bring into this world representations that I hope to share with a broader community and to educate and inspire others. I bid you hail and welcome. Hail to the guardians of the south and the element of fire. This is your most sacred time and your most sacred space. I call to you to bring in passion and creativity and warmth, and to remind us of the coming of sun and the renewal of this earth, and the promise of warmer times and for brighter futures. Hail and welcome. Hail to the guardians of the west and the element of water. Wash over the sacred space. Wash over me with insight and intuition. Share with us the healing powers that you've imbued in the sacred wells of this earth and in the sacred element of Brigid's well. And bring that healing energy to this sacred space and in the works that we want to share with our community. Hail and welcome. Hail to the guardians of the north and the element of earth, Sacred Mother, blessed goddess of our birth and of our grounding, the bountiful goddess who brings to us our nourishment and our food and our stability and our foundation. Bring to us an element of protection and peace to this planet. Hail and welcome. I also welcome to my space my ancestors, my guides, my divine entities of wisdom and intuition, those spirits who help me and guide me. You are welcome here in my space. You are always home in my space. Hail and welcome. Now, before I actually work with Brigid energy, I'm going to call in Brigid. Anytime that I call in a deity, I do use a little bit more formality of calling in a deity or a goddess. For today, I decided to pull this chalice. If you've never seen something like this before, this is an item that's been sitting on my altar in my bedroom. This is a German wedding chalice. It's intended to be drank very carefully, and it's an action that you do as a couple to signify cooperation and partnership. And I thought it was such a very fitting symbol of Brigid, because one of the aspects of Brigid is marriage and home and family. And before ritual, I put in the little top part of this chalice an ice cube that is very strategically melting down, as a very symbolic move of the winter melting away into spring, and also symbolic of Brigid's well, which is sought after for its healing properties and its healing energy, because we all need healing, and especially this week, healing is something that I'm focused on. So I'm using this as my representation for Brigid. I also have on the altar, because I thought it was interesting to pull these two elements in, I have a bottle of rum and I have a hot pepper for Maman Bridget. With the, I do not follow Haitian voodoo, but I do want to pay tribute to that. And interestingly enough, when I pulled this chalice off of my altar, I found in it my locket that has my Mercury dime in it. For those of you who are not paying attention, Mercury went retrograde yesterday, and one of the elements that I like to carry around with me when Mercury's gone retrograde is a Mercury dime. And so inside of this locket, I usually keep my Mercury dime protected and in a safe space, and I had forgotten where I put it, but ironically I found it when I pulled this chalice from my altar space. And so I'm going to leave that here on the altar as well, to help promote communication and to bring in the elements of Mercury during this retrograde. Lady of the waters, Lady of the flame, Lady of the wind, Lady of the turning earth reborn, Maiden of light, Mother of the rising dawn, she who brings new life into this world, I and we are under your shield each day and each night. We gather here to honor you, and we ask for your healing, for your guidance and your inspiration. Wise Brigid, bless us with wisdom. Pure Brigid, bless us with wellness. Brigid, the strong, bless us with strength. And sacred Brigid, bless us with peace. Beloved Goddess Brigid, gentle maiden, bathe in the white milk of nurturing. We give to you this offering. We ask your blessings on the circle, the sacred space, all of the items, and all of those people who are gathered with us today. I bid you hail and welcome. Real briefly, what I'm offering up to Brigid, my daughter and I were doing a little bit of kitchen witchery this morning in our kitchen. One of the traditional activities of Imbolc is cleaning. So I had her help me clean this space a little bit, and we cleaned the kitchen a little bit because we love cooking together. And so we did some cooking together and some crafting together, and I made this milk offering for Brigid because one of the elements for Brigid is milk, and I added to it a little bit of honey and some Bailey's Irish cream and a vanilla bean as well in there. So it smells amazing. I'm probably going to put this in some hot chocolate or my coffee tomorrow. So in the cup, that's what's in the cup. So we're going to be doing 3 different spell crafting activities this evening as part of my ritual tribute to Imbolc. One of the first things I want to do is I want to create some seed spell bags, and so I actually have these in my house because my mother is a bit of a seed hoarder. So I have these packages of what do you call these? Butterfly seeds, like they're flowers. You can get these at like a Dollar Tree store or any store where there's a garden section, and it's just a mixture of different seeds for different flowers that will bloom to promote like butterflies and hummingbirds and all of the pollinators, that we need to help keep our earth healthy. I have 3 little bags. These are the brew bags that we carry, and I'm going to be filling each one of these bags with some of those seeds. But I'm also going to be putting in with them a petition for each one of them. And I chose 3 bags because we're working with the triple goddess, so there's 3 different elements. So I mentioned Brigid is the goddess of hearth, home, and marriage, but she's also representative of blacksmithing or creation. She's also represents healing and knowledge. And so I'm going to be asking for 3 very specific requests, not just for me, but for the world as a whole, because one of the things I wanted to do is make sure that part of this ritual was giving back to the broader community, giving back to the earth. Another activity for Imbolc is seed planting. Kind of depends upon your zone or wherever you're at. I'm going to put these petitions in the bags with the seeds, and my idea behind this was, if you've ever seen those videos where somebody is talking to the plants, and one plant they talk really nice to and another plant they talk mean to, and other than talking to them in a different way, they give them all the same water and food and sunlight and everything that they need to thrive, but one plant doesn't thrive as well as the other plant. It's the plant that is spoken negatively to. The idea behind this is that this is my way of speaking to those seeds and putting something back in the earth that's positive, that everyone can benefit from. And so feeding back my magic to the earth, or feeding my magic back to the world. And so that was the premise behind, that our words have power, that our words have magic, both in written form and in spoken form, and putting this back into the earth to feed the earth. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dress a Brigid's candle for healing. This is a 7-day candle. I have about 7 more days before I probably will start feeling a lot better. Tara mentioned earlier, makeup does wonders for concealing any issues that may be. But I want to use this candle to help promote healing. And so I've gathered up some herbs that are pretty common herbs, so you can do this anywhere with anything you have. So I have some rosemary that I gathered from the garden. I have some bay leaves in here. I have some basil, dry basil from end of season, and some chamomile. And so I'm going to grind this up into a little bit of a fine powder, and I'm going to use that to dress this candle with some Brigid's Flame oil that we crafted in the store this season. So if you got this in one of those Curiously Curated boxes, or you bought it in the store and you didn't know what you were going to use it for, here's an idea about what to use Brigid's Flame oil for. And then with the remaining leftover herbs that I have in here, I'm going to add some salt to this jar when I'm done. I'm going to use some Epsom salts, and I'm going to create a soak, a Imbolc soak that I can use to bathe in later to help promote healing and help promote peace and protection. And so on these petition paper, what I did with this isn't anything, like I said, all of these materials, I wanted them to be very easy or something that you could use or get your hands on. I basically tore the side out of one of our bags that we have stuff that gets brought home in, and I'm using that for my petition paper. And in my first bag that I want to focus on with the blacksmithing and the creation, as I wrote down the words rebuild, recraft, and restore. Our world has suffered a pretty devastating economic blow. There's been businesses that have been struggling and been challenging, households that have been struggling and been challenging. And the whole idea behind blacksmithing and creation is to rebuild out of things that need mending. And so I feel like I want these seeds to put remending or rebuilding energy back into our earth. And so I'm imbuing them with those words to rebuild, recraft, and restore. So mote it be. Now what I'm going to do is keep the bag with the seeds and the words in them for probably about a week, 7 days, probably the same time that I'm going to burn this candle. I'll keep these seeds with the candle on my altar, and at the end of that time, I have a little stretch of grass in my backyard that doesn't see a whole lot of tending to, so I can let things grow wild there. And so I'll probably either put those, scatter these out in that green space and give it back to the earth and just let them grow wild. That's great for pollinators. Or if you don't have like a yard space or a garden space, then you can, these are wild seeds and wildflowers. You could probably sprinkle these out somewhere in some green park space. If you've got some nearby park or woodland, or
there's protected space around that they don't mow for wildflowers.
Yeah, protected space where you don't mow for wildflowers is what Tara had said. Here in Texas, we have a protected flower that grows wild that you can't mow over, and so that might be a great area to kind of toss these in, because these should bloom before or in and around when those flowers bloom. So in my second bag, tapping into the healing energy of Bridget, I wrote down the words physical healing and heal our humanity. Again, this year has been challenging. We've seen a lot of people struggle in their physical health and their well-being, mental health and well-being. But more importantly, I felt like it was important to put energy into these seeds to promote healing of our humanity. Just general decency and caring about each other. We are all connected. It's been a firm part of my belief system for a long time that what happens to one happens to all in some form. And so I want this as a reminder that when we heal ourselves, we heal each other. And these pouches, they have similar flowers, but they're not the same. So I picked 3 different ones. One is a hummingbird blend, one was a butterfly blend, and then one was a wildflower blend. And I felt like that was good use of that. I asked for physical healing and humanity healing, bring back decency and a connectivity to mankind as a whole. So mote it be. And then in my last pouch, I gave this some thought. The other aspect of Bridget is knowledge, and she's wise. And I thought, what would be one of the blessings that Bridget could bestow upon us through wisdom and through knowledge? I'm asking for social enlightenment, an elevation of our awareness as a society about the impact of our actions and our words. To pause before we speak or before we act. With Mercury being retrograde, there's a lesson to reflect and to reassess and to perhaps hit the reset button. And so I'm asking for Bridget to bring, during this time of Imbolc season, on the heels of a Mercury retrograde, a period of reflection for us and a period of resetting and perhaps rethinking what we want to represent to the world, who we want to be, how our actions can affect ourselves and to each other. And so I'm asking for social enlightenment with my last bag. Now, one of the things you can do with these, I had done it with the other 2 prior to this ritual because I didn't want it to be overly long, is dressing your petition papers. Each one of the petition papers I've folded 3 times to put them into the bag, and then you can dress each edge of that if you want to help draw in Brigid energy or whatever kind of energy that you want. I ask for social enlightenment. Give us a period of reflection and reset as a society. So mote it be. So that is the crafting that I wanted to do and spell work that I wanted to do for perhaps the greater good or the bigger picture or the bigger world. But I also wanted to ask Bridget for healing for myself. So I'm going to dress this candle. If you were not able to attend our candle class that we had, we are going to do an advanced one, and the candle magic class is posted on our virtual grimoire. We have a platform that we post a lot of our content to, so not just YouTube, but also to a classroom format. We can put that a link back on our social media page, but for those of you who are joining us, just real quick, the link to it is hws.classtra, CLASSTRA.org. Yes, ORG. So that candle magic class is available for replay. There's no cost to it. When I've already cleansed this candle, meaning I used rose water to clean the outside of the candle and make sure there weren't any particles in there. And I'm going to simply poke 3 holes because of the triple goddess into the top of the candle. Normally I would use a knitting, what is it called? Knitting needle in order to do this so that I could get really deep into the candle, because these little chopsticks don't go too far in without leaving wood in the candle. You don't have to do dressing candles of this way. This is just a way for me to emphasize the focus and intention of the work that I want. I'm using my Brigid's oil. I'm not going to use a lot of this. I'm just going to put a couple of drops into those holes so that when the candle starts to burn down, there's some Bridget's oil in there. I don't want to drown my wick or anything like that, so be light-handed with your oil in there. And I'm just going to make sure that that gets into my crevices of my candle. I also am using those herbs that I mentioned before. Rosemary is a great protection herb. I don't need a lot of this, you just need little bits of this. And then I've got chamomile for healing and for comfort. I've got the basil for productivity, you know, and progress the work that I want the candle to do. And then bay leaf to enforce my intentions. And so I'm putting just a little bit of that into my mortar and pestle because I want to grind that up just a little bit finer so that it doesn't, I don't want to wiggle my candles around too much. Just a little bit of a finer powder to put into my candle dressing on the top of my candle. I'm just taking a pinch of the, oh, it smells so good. That chamomile just smells amazing when you grind it up. Just going to take a little pinch of this around the top. If I can get any of that into any of those little holes, great. Again, I don't want too much in the top of my candle because I don't want this to impact or impede the burn quality of my candle magic. I'm kind of going around it 3 times just to signify my triple goddess energy here. So, okay, real light dressing on there. So it's probably a little too far to see, but not too bad, not too overly dressed there. Before I light this candle, I'm probably going to light this candle starting tomorrow, since tomorrow is technically the first day of Imbolc. I will say a prayer over it with Bridget and ask for her healing and her protection and her guidance and wisdom before I light the candle. As with all candle magic, I highly encourage you to practice candle safety. So if you can't leave the candle in a place that is going to be safe for it, make sure that if you need to, you snuff it out. You can do that and you can relight it as often as you need to do the work that you want to have working with it. And like I said, I'm going to put this candle next to these 3 bags of seeds. After that has been completely burnt down, that's when I'm going to complete my spell or complete my ritual, is by taking those seeds out and finalizing that in nature and putting it into the ground. So I do have some extra of this herb collection. That's normal when you are crafting. You have leftover herbs, and you know, I'm a big proponent of like no waste and use everything up, and so I've just kind of crushed up those bay leaves a little bit in here, and I'm going to strip my rosemary. Like I said, this is fresh rosemary from my garden that I dried out a couple days ago, I guess. I pulled it off the branch. Terry and I were out inspecting the rosemary in the backyard because it's flourishing now because it's a little cooler. We're blessed in Texas that I can leave my rosemary outside all year round, and it just flourishes all year round. And now that it's got a little bit of respite from that 10-degree heat here in Texas, it's actually doing beautiful, and it's very lush. So we cut a couple of sprigs off of it to dry out and have available around. And then what I'm going to add to this are some salts. Epsom salts are best. If you can do blessed salts or any other kind of salt, any salt will work. If you've got Himalayan salt, I mean, technically, even if you just have table salt, that will work as well too. But I'm adding the element of salt to help ground it and be...
No, the water candle's jumping.
Oh, the water candle's jumping. But I'm adding salt to this to make an Imbolc spiritual bath. So if you've never done a spiritual bath, this is a great way of cleansing yourself and just trying to reset your own intention. I am a water sign at the heart of who I am, so I love working with water elements. Even though that this is a fire holiday or a fire season, some of these herbs have fire elements in them, but it's a great way of like spiritually combining all of your elements together and your ritual space together. And this is something that people have talked about, like not being able to feel really connected to their spiritual path. These are really easy ways of reconnecting with your spiritual path, is doing some things that convert your mundane activities into magical activities or spiritual activities. So something as simple as carving out a little bit of time when you are bathing to do a spiritual soak or a spiritual cleanse. And this just makes a really pretty blend, very aromatic. Now, pro tip here, I wouldn't recommend just tossing this into your bathtub unless you like cleaning your bathtub with herbs in it all the time. And so what I do recommend is that you get either a brew bag or a, what is that called? Where's that word? Organza, thank you. Or an organza bag, and combine this together so that it will be contained in the bag like a tea soak. And so I don't know if you can see that from over there as well, but it's a really pretty, I'll take some pictures and post the pictures online so that you can see my soak. And so all of this I'm doing in the space of Brigid, with Brigid's energy, and asking for healing and protection and insight and intuition and progress, you know, and comfort during this time of renewal for Imbolc. Okay.
Question is, what if you don't have a tub?
Oh, this is a great question if you don't have a tub. So what I have seen some folks do is turn this into like a foot soak. I did a foot soak this morning, more of like a detox foot soak, but you get yourself a very large tub or something, or like a bin, and you can fill that up with hot water and fill this up. And it's very similar in the idea of help me to walk my spiritual path. You know, so it's more of a symbolic gesture of what you're doing with bathing. You could turn this into perhaps a salve, or, you know, you could take the herbs that I had left over and you could use almond oil or jojoba oil and create your own Imbolc oil. And so there's different ways, and then you can use that for self-anointing instead of using a bath. Same principle, same energy, same use of the herbs, just a different format or a different way of tying that all together. Organza bag on the shower head is what Tara just said below. Yeah, or somebody texted there. Great, excellent. Those are good ideas too. So, but those are all my suggestions for different ways of still working with maybe water, still working with these herbs and these oils, in order to bring in that energy and protect that energy. So that is my magical working for today, for our spiritual circle. I'm going to dismiss my quarters. I don't know, should I let them burn out? Yeah, I think I might let them burn out. I might dismiss them off camera. And same thing with Brigid's. My ice cube is fully water now, which I think is so symbolic of this ritual space, that the promise of winter melting away and turning into spring, and the spring well and all of the wellness. And so I will let these candles burn out and then dismiss and release my quarters. And I don't release my ancestors and my guides in my own house because they're here anyways. But I will dismiss the quarters a little bit later and let those burn down. I am going to dismiss. I'm going to release Brigid though. So the deities don't like waiting around for you. So, all right. Blessed Brigid, I want to thank you so much for your attendance and participation in this rite and in this craft work. Thank you for bringing your energy of hearth and home and marriage and healing and wisdom and renewal and rebirth and reconstruction to the world and to this space and to the energy and the working that I'm doing. Bless all these items. Let this work go into the world and to do your work and to do your bidding to show the world the path forward as we move into the next season, and as we celebrate the return of the sun, and as we celebrate the return of warmth and light and the promise of life. Hail and farewell. Okay, with that being said, I appreciate you guys sitting with me in this different format, in this different time and space. Like I said, we are here to help inspire you, here to help encourage you. Hopefully you will take some of these ideas into the world, and I would love to see what you guys are going to do for Imbolc. Share with us what your intentions are for the new season and for the new year, as this is the first of the Sabbats of 2021. I want to bless you all and thank you all for all of your support through 2020, and we love you guys so much. So with that, I'm Myra, and it's been a pleasure being with you. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.